Hello guys, Voltalon here and welcome to the first real deck profile on the channel. This will be a more relaxed video format compared to the other video that I have on the channel at the moment. This will be where I will talk about like deck lists that I find interesting or just decks that I've been brewing personally. This one in particular is the one that I brought and won with in an Edo Pro Discord tournament on the official Edo Pro Discord server. The format in particular was 5 rounds of Swiss with top 4 for the top cut. The matches themselves were best of 3 with siding, which is why I have the side deck here. And the deck I brought is what I call Graveyard Hate Aggro. This was adapted from a list that I found on Twitter that had been doing decently well, so I decided to pick this up and try it out myself and edited it a bit, and this is what I came up with. So the main game plan of the deck is to be an aggro deck that aims to use these 1-for-1 removals to help keep up your tempo and just beat your opponent down as fast as possible to prevent them from coming back. Cards like Grand Extreme can not only cheat out your high level monsters, but they can also shut down certain trap cards or certain monster effects that could be detrimental to you. Grand Extreme is the main payoff for some of these cards and is the main reason we play this deck. It can cheat out your high levels. For some of your high levels, only fish and sea serpent monsters in particular. And you can shuffle 5 monsters from your opponent's grave into their deck, which can by itself shut down certain traps and strategies. The main target that we run for this is the Headbutt Cachalot. This is basically just a 3k beat stack. It has 2500 attack by itself, and also can debuff something by 500 by milling a top card of your deck, which kind of just adds out to 3k. It's just the best one that you can target with the Grand Extreme. The other targets aren't particularly good. One of them is just a 2500 attack monster that has an on-normal summon effect to deal a smidge of burn damage, which isn't that great. And the other one we are actually running in the deck. We'll go over that later. But anyway, yeah, this is the best target you could be playing for Grand Extreme at the moment. The other target is the Battleshock Samegalon. This is kind of a stop defense for water attribute decks. You need to send a water from your hand into the grave to stop defense any monster on your opponent's field, which is pretty nice to help close out games, which is the main reason this card is here. And not the main reason, but one of the reasons why we are on a good amount of water attribute monsters in the deck. Speaking of reasons for that, Ice Age Catapult is the main reason for running a lot of water monsters. It needs a water attribute monster in the grave to be put into the bottom of your deck, but only on the turn you normal summon it, to bounce your opponent's back row or spell trap, and then debuff your opponent's face up monster by 600 attack and defense. The defense debuff doesn't matter too much. It can come up, but not common. Well, it's not common to have that come up. It's the attack drop that we care about. It helps beat over other 2 tribute monsters like Cachalot. It's kind of a 3k beat stick for a single turn, which again helps beat over monsters that are otherwise bigger than itself. And also it's just a decently nice tempo tool. It bounces a potential piece of interaction. It beats over your opponent's monster. It causes your opponent to lose out on 1 draw during the next turn. This pretty nice set of effects. And the final 2 tribute monster in the deck is the Multistriking Dragon Dragias. This is just a very nice generic beat stick. Can swing twice, can close out games, can return the tempo of the game to you if you somehow lost it in the early game. And it's just great. It has no restriction. It just needs to destroy monster by battle, and then after that it can make a second attack for the turn. It's just overall very nice and very easy to splash into decks. And this lines up very well into this deck in particular, as an aggro deck that really likes the constant offensive pressure that this card can output. And now for the lower level monsters, we have the generic staples in Sea Dragonite, Siesta Torero, and Amazing Dealer. Sea Dragonite is either just free information or very efficient free pops if your opponent has a duplicate in the grave. And that's good. It's just like a very efficient card. It's just free. You can like shuffle to, check something, decide what you want to do after that. And has a pretty nice stat line. The only reason why you're only on two reasons is one for siding purposes. In the side deck we have a bunch of 2-offs that makes running these 2-offs are very handy for siding purposes, allows us to easily side over specific cards. And then it also just lets us have space for more cards in the deck, or more variety in cards basically. One other reason is that I just don't find Sea Dragonite as good in this metagame compared to the previous format. We are only like 5 days in to this format, but I do feel like more people will swap to more proactive cards as opposed to reactive trap cards, due to Thunderbolt being able to very easily punish this deck. Not this deck, Thunderbolt can punish more reactive decks very well, and people as such would consider moving to more proactive cards. And with less reactive cards than Sea Dragonite can help check and give info on, it becomes worse. And also, like, it's harder to capitalize on the information you get from Sea Dragonite in this deck, as you are not on any main deck MSTs, like back row removal. We only have the Ice Age Catapult, which not only doesn't fully remove the card, it only bounces it to their hand. It also is a 2 tribute monster, which can make it sometimes unwieldy to combo with the Sea Dragonite to more carefully choose which target you want to check with Sea Dragonite and then kill bounce with the Ice Age Catapult. Still a very nice card to have sometimes, which is why it's still a 2-off. And also it's a Sea Serpent for Grand Extreme, which sometimes matters. The next one is the Siesta Torero, which in my opinion is better than the Sea Dragonite in this format, mainly because monsters will be in every deck, so it will always find a way to be useful. And there is this card called Acetic Caligulon that basically gets bigger the later the game is. The later in the game it gets down on the field, but it has 0 defense, so if you use the Siesta Torero to put it into face on defense, then you can just kill it with just the Torero, which is very nice. Amazing Dealer is just consistency. It's just free consistency, especially in the early game. In the mid-late game, it is harder to activate its effect. It is theoretically possible with Sea Dragonite and the Torero, but you mainly just want to see it in the early game to just dig for better cards. Just dig through maybe brick hands with like your 2 tribute monsters. We are on 9 of these, so it is conceivable that you will find hands that you have too many 2 tribute monsters relatively easily. Or this can also just help you find your 2-card combos in like, for example, the Candy Gem set that we have, or like Grand Extreme and any target. We don't want to see it too much in the mid-late game that we ideally shouldn't be going to, but just in case, we don't want to be seeing it in like even the mid-game. So we're only on 2 copies, which is a sweet spot to me. It's it's a card that you sometimes want to see and sometimes just don't want to see, I guess. Candy is fodder for gem set, we'll go over that later. Takriminos is your generic beater, your generic low level 1500 attack monster. It also just randomly has good defense, which is nice. Well, not randomly, it's an import from the original version of this card, but just like unlike the other beaters of its kind, it has actual defense stat, which is very nice. These beaters are used to either be very safe hits into low level set monsters. Those cap out at 1500 defense, but those are quite rare. And it's more common to have 1400 defense than 1500 defense, which means that this swinging into a low level set monster is more often than not going to kill it. And it can also crash into your opponent's 1500 attack monsters, or force your opponent to crash into them with their 1500 attack monster in certain situations, which makes this very nice to have. We have Terrorsaur Sternptera at 3 and Royal Rebel Shout at 1. These 4 hand control cards are here to enable the Judgment of the Rising Light that we have. That's the main reason they're here. In certain situations, you can use it to shuffle important cards your opponent is keeping their hand into the deck, which or just force them to discard it, which can matter. That can matter. It isn't a matchup that always comes up, but it is something to take note of when you're playing against that. Sea Dragon Cranedross is just nice to have. We are 9 tributes, which means the more ways you can special summon high level monsters from your hand onto the field, the better. This one is one of the better ones we could be playing. There isn't much else we can be playing really for this type of niche. Yes, the reason why this isn't that good is because we are only on 4 targets for it, which means that it can be quite dead often. But it's still nice to have in situations where you are like flooded with these high levels and need to be able to get them out of your hand. This can be stopped by like Spirit of Bolt of Inspiration if they shuffle your Grand Stream away, but that's like for the most part fine. You don't break too often with this deck, but you can, and in those situations, if they do that, then that's kind of that's a problem. But like most of the time, it's like okay. When it comes up, it comes up. Sea Star Trooper is additional graveyard hate. It's graveyard hate on a stick. It's just like mill 1, send 1 from the grave into the deck, which is just decently efficient. It's free. It's a water attribute for Ice Age. It's a Sea Serpent for desperate Granitring plays. It has decent stats also, but it's just decent. It's a decent card, and just additional graveyard hate pieces isn't bad to make sure we can find them in the correct matchup. Our gem set is the reason we play Candy. It's just very efficient removal. It's only on level 8 or lower monsters, so you're playing against like a fusion deck. Then you won't have too many opportunities to activate the gem set if they got the ball rolling. But like outside of that, it's still pretty nice to have. It also just comes with graveyard hit that we will always get if we get to activate this card because we are only on Candy. And it's just very efficient card. Judgment is a comparatively less efficient but still decently efficient card. It is also 1-for-1 pseudo removal that removes it from the field but it still goes to the hand. Your opponent will sometimes accidentally play into this by clearing their hand for you, but they can also accidentally play around it by being forced to keep cards in hand due to not being able to bring them out, for example. This is why we are on these enablers to help facilitate it when your opponent still has cards in their hand. Just overall pretty nice. Unlike the gem set, it can actually target any monster, any level monster. So you can shuffle fusion monsters back into the extra deck, which in those situations it becomes better than the gem set and becomes similar to gem set in type of removal. And also the shuffle one sometimes matters. Sometimes I have just use this without bouncing anything to just shuffle one if I'm worried about like dying to Dunk Revelation. It comes up, both modes comes up decently often. Mirror Force is the reason why we are not on Decklist and by extension Uni. Well, two reasons really. One, Mirror Force is easier to use. It's a lot easier to get it off early game. Like it's very easy to just sack wins with this by just Mirror Forcing early and keeping that tempo and just riding that until you win. Secondly, if we use Decklist, we would have to use Umi, which means you dedicate 4 cards in your deck to running that package, and that will cut into the jump set and the judgment stuff that we have going on, which would just make it harder to fit everything. And just playing the one card board wipe is just easier to manage than running that 4 card package. Monster Reborn we're not on because our targets aren't very good. Our best one is Dragias, but other than that, we have a 2400 vanilla. If you choose to make it off the Reborn, poor statted stop defense, and like a decent beat stack. It's not like particularly impressive. So that's why we have the Mirror Force instead of that. Not great. We're not on Graceful, just because of the power level of Mirror Force basically, just the high ceiling of this card. It is very nice to have. A Graceful wouldn't be too bad, just because you need to find like the candies for the gem sets, the Cachalots for the Grand Extremes, and so on. And it can dig you out of the bricking potentially. But like this Mirror Force is also the only piece of interaction on your opponent's turn in the deck, which makes this pretty handy to have. And now for the side deck, Ancient Arise Dragon, Shock Dragon, and Phoenix Dragon are part of a dragon package that we have in this side deck. More often than not, you will be siding these over the Dragias, which is the reason why we have this like 2-2-2 ratio. Yeah, sometimes the Dragias won't be good in certain matchups, so we want to side it out for like either of these. Ancient Arise is the more common one that you will side into if your opponent is playing a deck that can swarm the field with high stat monsters like worms, for example, are a pretty good example. They can just spam the board with 2,500 quite well if they have all the setup possible. And in that matchup, the Dragias will do less because they have to crash into those monsters, and the Ancient Rise will be better because they don't need to crash. One thing to note is that the Ancient Rise also doesn't die to Hard Defense mission, which you could just side this in just to dodge Hard Defense if you think your opponent will be siding into them, or it's just like playing them main deck. Just nice card to have. A Shock Dragon is just here to be able to play into the potential maximum matchups. Those are quite rare, but they can come up sometimes, and you would want to have this for the fringe matchups. Phoenix Dragon is here mainly as a good side-in if your other low-level monsters are failing to be good. Like Sea Trooper into like decks that don't care about that grave is not ideal, and you will want like cards that actually do something. So like Phoenix Dragon is one of the better ones that you can be playing. Not a water attribute, but that's fine. It's just an overall very good card. And when you're playing against a maximum matchup, you can side in both the Shock Dragon and the Phoenix Dragon to have more consistent access to the Shock Dragon for when your opponent brings out the maximum monster. Tenacity Dragon is a similar boat as the Phoenix Dragon, in that it is just a decently good card that you side in if your low level monsters that are in the main deck aren't pulling that weight. This can help your Dragias beat over other high level monsters that it could otherwise maybe not out, or just like 300-400 damage sometimes. Just overall pretty decent card, helps beat over other things decently well. Spirit of Bolt of Inspiration is similar to Sea Trooper, but with a couple differences. It is Earth, which matters for Ice Age and Samegalon. It can shuffle spell traps, and it can shuffle up to 2 cards. But one of them has to be a spell trap for you to get the second shuffle. Just a very efficient card, like more efficient than Sea Trooper in what it can do. It can like shuffle Fusion to screw over like Starry Star. It can shuffle Magical Stone Excavation targets. It can just shuffle darts into their deck, like maybe like a back row removal that like it's maybe not relevant in the current turn. Like you can just force them to have like worse hands in like they'll more likely have worse hands if you shuffle like extra spells into the deck basically. The only real reason we're on the Sea Trooper over this is because of Ice Age and their water attribute for this. You can very easily consider running any of these in the main deck over this. Vanishing Torrent is back row removal. It's nice to have for matchups that really like the back row, but the more relevant back row is normally stopped by these, so which is why I'm on its side deck instead of main deck. It is also just sided in if your gem set isn't doing anything in the matchup. Like sometimes you're playing against max deck or like a fusion spam deck that makes gem set not really have as many good targets. So in those matchups, you consider just playing these instead. But like most decks should be able to have something that you can gem set decently well. So it's fine if you don't like see success from this card. Again, like decks that really like the back row, you can use these. Crank to 10 is similar to the Vanishing Torrent in that you say these in if your gem sets or whatever aren't doing that well in the matchup. This one is special because it can help close out games sometimes, since it gives the piercing, which you can put it on like Dragias to get a double attack with 2,900 attack with piercing, which can deal a lot of damage in the turn. Just an additional way to help close out on the game if your opponent is walling up. And Acetic Acid Trapple can hit a lot of things, but this is mainly here for like Psychics. If they find their Romance pick, you can snipe that. Okay, other than that, there are a lot of good staple cards that can get hit by Acetic Acid Trapple, like the Torero, Amazing Dealer, Sea Dragon Knight, like Phoenix Dragon, and the list goes on. Just overall pretty nice card to have. One card I am regretting not playing is the Harder Fence Mission. This card is very good into like dragons, into worms that have a lot of targets for this card, and it's just very efficient removal that you can use to help ride the tempo, just maintain that aggressive that aggression. This would be very nice. I did encounter a decent amount of dragons, or at least there were it was the most represented deck in that tournament. It was 19 people, I think. 3 people were playing dragons, yeah. But yeah, just a very nice card to have in the side deck in general, and I'm not sure why I wasn't on it in the first place. And yeah, that'll be it for the deck profile. If you find the deck interesting and would like to try it out for yourself, please do. I will probably have a text form of this deck in the description. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.